In today's video, I have 4 gingerbread themed crafts to share with you. If this is your first time here, welcome to my channel Creatively Expressive. My name is Amy, and on my channel I share DIYs, thrift flips, budget decor, and all things creative. Now without any further ado, let's get started. For project number 1, I am using this unfinished wood plaque that I got from Amazon. And this fall rolling pin sign that I got from the Dollar Tree. The first thing I am going to do is sand the wording off of the rolling pin sign. Then I am going to paint the wood plaque with white chalk paint. Next, I will paint the center portion of the rolling pin sign with the color Cinnamon by Folk Art. When that center area has dried, I will paint the handles with the color Red Apple by Apple Barrel. Next, I went into my Silhouette Design Studio and I designed a decal to fit on the plaque, and I cut it out on stencil vinyl. And I'll let you know what fonts I used to make this in the description box below. So I applied the stencils to the plaque, and then I'm going to paint over it first with some white chalk paint to seal in the edges of the stencil. When the white paint is dry, I'm going to use the color Red Apple to paint over the words 12 Days of Christmas. Now I'm using the color Christmas Green to paint over those holly flourishes. Next, I will paint over the word ginger with the color Cinnamon. And finally, I will paint over the word bakery with the color Red Apple. When all of the paint is dry, I'm going to peel up my stencil. I also designed a stencil to fit on the rolling pin sign in my Silhouette Design Studio, and I am going to apply that stencil to that sign. To seal in the edges of the stencil, I am going to paint over it first with my base coat color of Cinnamon. When the cinnamon color is dry, I will go back over the stencil with white chalk paint. And when the white paint is dry, I will peel up the stencil. I have these little gingerbread men that came in a set from Hobby Lobby, and I am going to paint 2 of them with the color Cinnamon. Now I'm going to use some white chalk paint to paint on the icing details. The white paint is pretty thick, so when painting on fine details, I like to water it down a bit to make the paint glide on easier. For the buttons, I am going to dip the handle end of my paintbrush into the white paint and press it against the body to make little circles. Then I will dip the end of this clay tool from Dollar Tree into the black paint to make the eyes. Now I'm going to use the color Christmas Green to paint the little bow ties. Then I'm going to use my Star Bond super glue to glue the gingerbread man onto the plaque sign. And finally, I will use some jute twine and my staple gun to hang the rolling pin sign from the bottom of the plaque sign. And now this project is complete. For project number 2, I will be using this house-shaped sign from the Dollar Tree, this small square sign that I got on clearance from Hobby Lobby, some little pom-pom balls from Hobby Lobby, some candy cane pipe cleaners from Hobby Lobby, and some felt from Hobby Lobby. First, I'm going to take the heart and the rooftop off of the house. Then I am going to pull the rest of the fabric off of the house. Now I'm going to remove the center square, hanger, and paper covering from the small square sign. Next, I will trace the house onto the cinnamon colored sheet of felt. Then I'll cut the house shape out. Now I'm going to hot glue the felt to the top of the house. And cut away any excess felt from the house. Then I'm going to trace the square sign onto the white piece of felt. And then I cut the square out. I want to attach the house to the square. So I'm going to figure out where I want the house to go, and then I will trace the bottom of the house onto the white square piece of felt. Then I will cut the traced rectangle out from the square piece of felt. This way I can glue the house shape onto the top of the wood sign and not to the felt. Now that I have a spot for the house to go, I'm going to hot glue the white piece of felt to the square sign. I guess I forgot to hit the record button here, but I placed the rooftop piece onto a piece of white felt and then I traced around it and made the bottom area look like dripping snow. I cut the piece out and then I glued it to the top of the house. Now I'm going to hot glue these tiny pom-poms onto the rooftop area to look like Christmas lights. Then I'm going to glue a candy cane pipe cleaner on either side of the house. Next, I'm going to trace a small circle shape onto white felt and cut it out. Then I'm going to trace a slightly smaller circle shape onto yellow felt and cut it out. Now I'm going to fold the yellow circle in half and cut a piece off of the folded area. Then I'll fold each of the halves in half and cut a piece off of the folded areas. Now I'm going to make myself a door template by making a rectangle on a piece of paper and then I'm going to trace a circle at the top of the rectangle. I'll cut the template out and then I'll trace it onto a piece of green felt. I cut the door shape out and then I hot glue it to the house. Then I'm going to glue the window on above the door. Now I'm going to frame the door with another one of those candy cane pipe cleaners. And I'll make a little doorknob by gluing on a tiny red pom-pom. To add some candy elements to my gingerbread house, I'm going to make some candy suckers. I'm going to cut a strip of white felt 3/8 of an inch thick. Then I'm going to cut a strip of pink felt 7/8 of an inch thick. Next, I'm going to fold the pink felt in half lengthwise and glue the edges together. Now I'm going to glue the white felt to the pink felt, and then I will start rolling the two pieces together, making sure the white is on the inside of the pink. I'll add hot glue as I roll them, and I'll keep rolling them until I'm happy with the size. Then I'm taking a white colored pencil and I'm marking on the house where I want some icing swirls. Next, I will use some tulip puff paint to pipe over the colored pencil lines to look like icing. Then I am going to hot glue a little snowflake that I got from Hobby Lobby to the center of the house above the window. Now I'm going to add a Wilton treat stick to those candy suckers that I made earlier. I am going to use an X-Acto knife to bore a hole into the bottom of the candy sucker for the candy stick to go into. Then I will hot glue the treat stick into that hole. Before I add the suckers to the house, I need to glue the house to the base. To do that, I'm going to use a combination of this Gorilla Clear Grip glue and hot glue. The hot glue is for a quick, short-term hold, and the Gorilla Glue is for a stronger, long-term hold. Now I'm going to figure out how I want to place the candy suckers on the house. I decided to place the pink one on there straight up and down, and place the green one at an angle. Since I am placing the green one at an angle, I am going to use my miter shears to cut the end of the stick to a 120-degree angle. That way the bottom of the stick sits flat against the base. I have these plastic peppermint candies in 2 sizes that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I am going to use them to line the edges of my base. They have these little circle hangers on them, so I'm going to cut those off. Then I am going to hot glue them on, alternating the sizes. I want to add a couple of these pink trees from the Dollar Tree to the base, but they are too big, so I am going to cut them down to fit my base. Now that I have cut down the tree, the wire that holds the little needles in is loose. I am going to pull out a few of the needles first to make a new tree trunk, and then I will use some needle nose pliers to tighten up the wire so that no more needles fall out. Then I will glue the tree back into its peppermint base. Now I will glue those down in the yard along with this little Santa that I got from Hobby Lobby. Now I'm going to use a few of these tiny little white pom-poms to add some little piles of snow in the yard. I wanted to add a little sparkle to my snow, so I am going to do that by covering the white felt in a layer of Mod Podge, and then I am going to sprinkle over it with some extra fine white glitter. Then I decided to make the suckers look like they are covered in sugar by adding some glitter to those as well. The glitter was sticking to everything, even if it wasn't Mod Podged. So now I am just trying to use a dry paintbrush to brush off some of that excess glitter. But pretty much everything ended up looking sparkly, which I really don't mind. And that is it for this project. For project number 3, I'm using this monogrammed rolling pin fall decor piece that I got from Michaels after Thanksgiving 2023 on clearance for about 60 or 70% off. First, I'm going to sand the letter off in case it's raised at all. Then I am going to paint it with white chalk paint. I found this Christmas cookies SVG on Etsy. I sized it to fit the rolling pin and I cut it out on stencil vinyl in 2 parts, the outside shape of the cookies and the inside icing markings. Then I designed my own little decal the same width as the cookies that says "'Tis the Season." First I am going to stick the "'Tis the Season" stencil to the rolling pin. Then I am going to paint over it with white chalk paint and let it dry. Next I am going to paint the handles on the rolling pin with the color Red Apple. And I will also paint over the stencil with that same Red Apple paint. Now I'm going to remove that stencil and apply my cookie outline stencil. I'm going to paint over the stencil with white paint to seal the edges of the stencil. When the white paint is dry, I will paint over the stencil with the color Cinnamon. Then I peeled up my stencil. When I did this, it pulled off some of the cinnamon paint. So now I'm going to take a fine detail paintbrush and I will fill in the areas that got peeled off. I was afraid of more of the cinnamon paint color getting pulled off when applying the next stencil. So before I did that, I applied a couple of coats of this matte clear sealer and let it dry. Then I applied the icing line stencil over top of the cookie shapes. Now I'm using a fine detail paintbrush to paint white chalk paint over the lines of the stencil. And I also painted those tiny little snowflakes with red paint. Now I'm going to peel off my stencil and this project is complete. For project number 4, I'm using this Easter cutting board shaped sign that I got from the Dollar Tree. First, I'm going to remove that raised center piece and then peel up the paper. Now I'm going to paint the clean backside of the sign with white chalk paint. I mixed my white paint with a little bit of water to thin it out. It takes me a couple of extra coats to get the coverage I want, but I don't like how thick and cakey white paint is, so I am willing to do the extra work to get a smoother finish. Then I went into my Silhouette Design Studio and I designed a decal to fit on the center area of the cutting board. I cut half out in red vinyl and the other half out in green. I also cut out little square marks in the same spots on both vinyls to make putting the two together easier. I just line up the squares and then the rest of the wording should be in the right place when I combine the two together. Once I have the two colors combined into one decal, I will apply it to the sign. Next, I'm going to select 6 of these wood shapes from this Christmas icon set from Hobby Lobby to make into Christmas cookies. I'm going to paint 3 of them with this color Cashew to look like sugar cookies. Then I'm going to paint the other 3 with the color cinnamon to look like gingerbread. I'm going to paint just inside of the edge of the sugar cookies so that you can see just a bit of that cashew color to make them look like they're frosted cookies. I'm starting with the color white, and then I will use that same white on the gingerbread cookies to look like piped icing. Now I'm working with the color red apple. I will use that to paint the stocking, the stripes on the candy cane, the scarf on the snowman, the bow tie on the gingerbread man, the nose on the reindeer, and half of the ornaments on the tree. And again, when painting on the sugar cookies, I am not painting all the way to the edge because I want them to look like iced cookies. Now I'm going to use the color bright green to paint the gumdrop buttons on the gingerbread man, the scarf on the reindeer, and the rest of the ornaments on the tree. Next, I am going to use black chalk paint watered down just a bit to add black pupils to the reindeer's eyes and draw the reindeer's mouth. And to paint the snowman's hat, buttons, and eyes. I will paint the snowman's nose with orange, and then I will make black dots for his mouth. Then I will paint the star on the tree yellow. And finally, I will lighten up the color red and black to make little highlights on the cookies. Now that the cookies are finished, I will use Star-Bond super glue to glue them to the cutting board sign. To dress up the sign just a little bit more, I want to give it a bow. I looked through my ribbon supply and I found some scrap pieces of Christmas ribbon and a few spools. And I am going to base the lengths of my ribbons on this scrap piece of gingerbread man ribbon that I have. So I'm going to cut down the rest of the ribbons to that same length. And I am using 6 different ribbons to make a scrappy ribbon bow. Once I have them all cut to the same length, I'm going to dovetail the ends by folding them in half and cutting at an angle. Then I will heat seal the ends. I have 3 fatter ribbons and 3 skinnier ones. I am going to put the 3 fatter ones on the bottom and the 3 skinnier ones on top. I'll crisscross 2 of the 3, and then I will put the 3rd one down the center of the crisscross 2. Then I'll do the same thing with the skinnier ones and stack those on top of the fatter ones. Then I use a pipe cleaner to hold all of my ribbons together. I used the candy cane pipe cleaner at first, but then I ended up swapping it out for a less bulky silver one. Now I'm going to tie a loose knot into this skinny red ribbon from the Dollar Tree. And I will wrap and glue that around the center of the bow to hide the pipe cleaner. Next, I'm going to tie on a jute twine hanger. Then I'm going to wrap some of that jute twine around the sign handle and glue the ends to the back of the sign. And finally, I will glue the bow to the jute twine on the handle, and then this project is complete. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and that it was helpful to you. If you liked today's video, some easy and completely free ways to help support my channel are to subscribe if you haven't already, give me a thumbs up, leave me a quick comment or even just an emoji, and share this video with anyone who you think might enjoy it. I truly appreciate your support and I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!